So I'm glad I actually wanted to transition into some local speak. So that's cool because I agree with that. And I think that if you can set an example of this is how it can be done and you start locally, you're going to spark a conversation where people are like, well, wait a second, why don't we do this everywhere? We just did this on a local scale. So we can just expand the resources and do this on a state scale and a federal scale. This should be the way it's done. But you really got to get people interested in local elections, which, by the way, local elections are by far the most important for you, the person. I mean, that's why, and I'm not going to sit here and say corruption doesn't happen locally. Of course it does. It happens all the time. But there's a lot more transparency when you're dealing with everything right in your backyard. And when you really show up and you really fight for something on the ballot, it's a lot harder for somebody to stop you. It's a lot harder for them to stop you in your tracks. I'm not saying it can't be done, but it's a lot harder. It's a lot easier when it's something federal or even when it's something state, comparatively speaking. So check this out. This happened. I just kind of tweeted this. Acting locally is dope AF, which I think that's my new slogan for the year. Breaking. Aurora becomes the first city in Colorado to ban no-knock warrants by police. Vote was 7-3 in favor. So the reason I bring all this up, which, you know, kudos Aurora, that's cool. Do you think it's time that we really start focusing, we, the collective we, start focusing on local alliances more so than ever before? Because that's something that I still have really not seen happen on a mass scale. It's happening some. It's happening more than it has the past 4 years. It should have started happening immediately in 2016. It should have started happening immediately the first time Bernie was cheated in 2016. Because that was the eye-opener where it's like, okay, if you're a left-leaning person in this country, you're not as alone as you thought you were. At least that's the lesson I got. I used to believe that, well, I guess not many people think the way I do. I live in a country where I'm an outlier. Not many people think this way. I just live in a very conservative country. Then 2016 happened. All my worst suspicions were confirmed that, wait a second, I do live in a very conservative country politically, but it doesn't actually reflect the people that live here. And the Democratic Party hates people who think like me more than they hate the right. They want to be buddy-buddy with the right. They hate people like me more. That's the duopoly we live in. It's beyond corrupt. It's beyond saving, and it cannot be reformed. But it doesn't reflect the people who live here. So it's time to respond accordingly. But yet you haven't really seen a groundswell of local alliances, at least not to the scale I would like to see. What do you guys think about that? Do you agree? Do you disagree?
Yeah, I 100% agree, you know, especially when we're staying on the kind of topics of how a local elections can affect our elections in general, the elections, the Board of Supervisors, you know, it's the counties that have a lot of say of what happens to our elections. So when I think about, you know, the fact that, you know, we went into that courtroom or that city council room and Fee got to speak for 1 minute, you know what I'm saying? You know, I looked at all those Board of Supervisors and saying, these are the people we need to get in power right here in our backyard if we want to change our elections systemically. And I mean, I know when it comes to Fee's favorite person, Shama Swan, you don't have to tell her about local elections. Yeah. I'll let you talk about that because I know.
Yeah. I mean, I am like baffled that there aren't more people who have taken the same actions she has. Shama Sawant has been able to really literally change the face of politics, not just in Seattle, but in Washington, and also show that it's possible to be done via a very, very local city council. I mean, they spent $1 million, Amazon did, to get rid of her, and that it didn't work. She's also been a thorn on the side of the mayor, Jenny Durkin, and of Seattle. She's also been a thorn on the side of the police. She literally uses the support of her people to enact change, and that's what's missing in
She's Congress. The one who let them in. She's the one who let them into City Hall, I think.
Yeah. She tried to do that too. And you think about, like, you know, the national.
She succeeded in doing it.
She did.
She let them in. She succeeded.
She led the battalion, so to speak. And this is something that a lot is missing in our Congress, is what I was going to say, because they could use that. I mean, the squad could literally be saying, hey, you know what, we're going to demand this, and you guys show up at this time. Let's all be there. Let's do it. People like AOC have that ability, have that following to do that. We're not seeing that coalition between the electoral process and the changes you can participate through electoralism and the direct actions that push those changes. And Shama Sawant has mastered the art of doing that. And we could have that here. But by the way, she isn't a Democrat. That's a really good point to make, because when you are part of the Democratic Party, you do have to abide by certain laws within their system. So it handicaps you in a way. And so what we're seeing is that it's possible to be a socialist and be elected to city council, because not everybody pays attention to city council. And that's where we need to put our efforts and our push right now. City council, then eventually that's how we grow and expand. You can have Greens in city council. We used to have a Green as a mayor of Santa Monica a while ago. Like, it's absolutely possible.
Yeah. And if you think about that national push from the Democratic Bernie Sanders wing, about $15 an hour across the board, well, she got that done as a city council member in Seattle. And that's just something to point out. You know, I love it when Shahid Buttar says, when you think global, you act local. And that's what we need to do. We need to get our bench back in there. I thought you were thinking about running, weren't you, Ron?
No way.
Okay.
First of all, I would lose. There is a lot of footage out there of me saying stuff like I'm against private property. So that right there, they would just play that and I would lose. I think I did write you in as mayor before, Pasta. Yes. And I think Fee should run. I think Fee should run for something.
Well, you know, I am like you. I have said things like like abolish capitalism.
Said if you run, she'll run.
I mean,
she didn't say that.
I'm pretty super lefty, but I also want to point out the ranked choice voting is happening in Maine, and that's another thing that we, like I said, we could act locally as well, and we could get that passed. There's a lot of things that happen here in LA, like the public bank LA.
Yes. That was a bunch of people who kept showing up to City Hall until they were sick of seeing them.
Yep.
No.
And they got it. And we almost won that one. In fact, in some ways, we did win that one because later they passed that ordinance. We do have the ability. There's going to be 10 public banks in California.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we got to go on the push for what you were doing for the municipal internet across the board. I thought that was amazing, what you did. I want to continue to get back on that. I want to push. That's
Especially
something
now.
big. Yeah. If we can get municipal internet across the board in some of these cities, you know what I'm saying? That's going to be big. And that's so good for people in poverty or people who are trying to get out of poverty. A free and fair open internet is vital to them. And that's something we got to continue to do. Continue to show up, continue to make the phone calls, bug your city councilman and get them to do your bidding, you know, to change and get that effect in play. Don't worry. Don't concentrate on Congress and Nancy Pelosi, because she's just going to give you some ice cream and said, we fed them.
She won't even give you ice cream. She'll just say we fed them.
We feed them.
That was the most. We don't even. That was
Disgusting.
So gross.
Disgusting.
That was just so gross.
She makes Marie Antoinette look like nothing. Like, right?
First of all, you know, and we don't have to get off on this too long, but providing for people during a pandemic is not feeding them. Providing for people during a pandemic is one of the things a fucking federal government is for. That's one of the things it's for. That's why or at least why we're told, we file our taxes every year. That if something like a pandemic happens, which typically happens once a frickin' century, but when it does, you are taken care of. Not because it's a handout, but because you can't work. You can't because of a pandemic, and the government is supposed to have your back because you have their back year after year when you file your taxes. That's what we are taught. So we feed them. What the fuck? So I had a visceral reaction to that, if you couldn't tell.
No.
Thank you for being compassionate to our constituents. We represent them. We know them.
Oh my God.
She don't know shit. She's never out there for a march. She's never gone out.
She
You
won't
never see a
debate
picture
her
going
opponent.
to.
Even Mitch
Yeah.
McConnell
No
will
way.
debate his opponent.
Exactly.
Right?
What a fugazi.
Repulsive. I know that's your favorite word, buddy. You really love that word. In 2021, you have to like not use that anymore. Like when we buzzed you, whatever you would say, fam, that needs to be like fugazi. You just need a buzz.
I need another word. I used to forget about it, fugazi.
He won't
fam.
curse now. He won't curse.
Trying not to, for my mom who watches the show. Hi, Mom.
Oh,
Get your news on with Ron. Remember that I told you about him? This is him.
I don't know if my mom watches this show or not. I really don't. But if she does, and she's like, I wish you wouldn't curse so much, I'd be like, I'll stop when I reach your quota. And then my mom will say, touche. And that'll be the end of it. My mom curses like a sailor. It's awesome. But yeah. How repulsive do you have to be where I find myself going, I'm with Wolf Blitzer on this one?
Yeah.
How repulsive do you have to be to where I'm like, I agree with Wolf on this one? I never thought I'd say that before. 2020 has been a first for a lot of things.
Oh, yeah.
But so getting back to localization, though, I mean, the thing about alliances, too, and I think we all know Gail McLaughlin. We all know what she pulled off in Richmond. Alliances don't just involve people running for office. That's part of it. And, like, let's be real. We should try to avoid things like multiple progressives all running for the same thing. We should try to avoid that strategically. We should try to strategically avoid something like that. But it doesn't just, it takes activism. It takes direct action. It takes content. It takes journalists. It takes artists. It takes comedians. It takes music. It takes, hey, Emma Goldman, she taught us a long, long time ago, a revolution without dancing isn't a revolution worth having, and you need the arts. That's got to be part of it too. So it takes all those things. It goes far beyond electoralism. So let me ask you guys, because I don't have an answer for this. How do you really start building that in a community?
Well, I was going to say it also takes discourse. That's the first thing.
Of course.
We got to get people to start talking to one another and stop demonizing each other, especially right now. We have this issue on the left, and it's there. It's evident. If 2020 has revealed anything, it's revealed that there is a split among the progressives and some of the ideology. So I think the first thing we have to do is just keep promoting discourse. But it really is a shame when you get sites like and platforms like YouTube who are actually suppressing discourse and conversations. But more than anything, I think we just have to continue to get in there and have conversations with people who disagree with us, you know what I'm saying, and kind of work out our differences. Also, I think it's just a matter of about prioritizing. We talk about that, Tulsi Gabbard kind of left wing who believes in ending regime change wars, but we also believe in protecting our civil liberties. Well, a progressive who fights for Bernie Sanders, who believes in Medicare for all and a Green New Deal, needs to also understand to have those policies, we need to protect these other policies like our speech, like our elections. And if we want to have money for these things, we have to stop using so much money on the empire all around the world. So right now, I think more than anything, we have to have discourse to get together to build that bigger foundation, to build that bigger movement. And then we can eventually figure out how to move forward. But it's going to start with that, because the elites have definitely divided us and have us fighting each other so they can run off with all the profits. That's just my personal opinion. It's about having the conversations right now first, and then we can start working on everything else.
Well, I mean, I agree that discourse is a huge part of it, but I also think people have to be personally affected. I mean, I'm at the point where I thought a pandemic would do it. I thought a pandemic would give people the impetus to literally go out there and be like, hey, it's a pandemic. We don't have healthcare. Let's protest healthcare. Oh, wait, it's a pandemic and they gave us $1,200 and that's it. Man, let's go protest that. I don't think enough people are affected by it. I think we're going to see that happen with this wave of evictions coming in as the economy worsens, which every single economist, the ones I agree with and don't usually agree with, have literally said, like, there's an impending crisis coming. And I see way too many people still clutching to the comfort of going back to normalcy, not yet wanting to admit that there is no going back to normalcy, that this was a line that was drawn, and now we know that the government isn't there for us. And once they are directly affected in their pocket, because unfortunately that's how people learn, not everybody, but a lot of people, I think that's going to be like cause them to be like, hey, maybe is there a rental assistance I can look at? Oh, here are these people that have been fighting for rent cancellation, the LA Tenants Unit. Okay, these people, yeah, look, the Black Lives Matter people are fighting against police brutality, which is taking money from our communities and putting them in something we don't need. Let's align with them. Oh, okay, hey guys, like we're also fighting jails. We're immigrants and we're fighting for a path to citizenship, but these people are also being detained unfairly in these prisons as well. Oh, okay, why don't we work together? And so on and so on. And it's going to take direct action, and the direct action will happen when people feel the need for it to happen, because right now there's still some semblance of society where people want to forget about it and go back to their lives. But the moment they can't do that anymore, I think that's when that's going to happen. And this is why we're seeing fascism come into play on YouTube and on Twitter and social media, because they're scared as everything keeps deteriorating, as the empire is crumbling before us, that we're going to come together and realize, wait a minute, yeah, you're a white guy, but maybe, you know, we don't hate each other so much. Maybe you just think I'm an immigrant, I'm taking your job, but really I'm not. And look over here, Nancy Pelosi and Donald Trump, they have more in common with each other than we do. Why are we fighting here? Like we need to realize we have more in common. And hey, let's remove these people. Let's go to their homes. Let's protest. Let's make them uncomfortable. I mean, that is what it's going to take, I think. I really don't see any other way of letting electoralism do its job or voting fascism out. It's not going to happen that way.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I mean, it's a total ground up thing. That's why, you know, when you're just focusing on electoralism, people will kind of look at someone like me, and I think even like you guys as well, where it's like, well, you guys seem a little bit cynical and a bit hopeless. But then when you look at the grassroots and you look at the ground floor and you look at neighborhoods and communities, well, I'm actually completely an optimist, because I do think that getting together in our communities, which I think, as you're saying, Fee, will inevitably happen, because there is no going back to normal. There's going to be a new normal. The other side, the detail, though, is it doesn't have to be a bad thing. The way I really like to describe it to people in the most simplistic of terms is, we as a society, before this pandemic happened, we as a society, the contemporary American society, we were driving off a freaking cliff, and there were no brakes. The car was fucked up. Part of it was on fire, and we were just going off a freaking cliff. Now the shitty car has completely stopped. So we're not going off the cliff anymore. We're just completely stopped and gridlock. And there's fumes everywhere, and there's shit all around, and there's probably some deadly rattlesnake slithering that's going to get in the car soon. But we do have the chance to fix up the car and drive in a different direction away from the cliff, in the direction we're supposed to be driving to, towards I don't know, whatever destination you want. The beach.
Cliff, Ron.
We'll go with the beach, because I like the beach. We got to that's the theme of it. Get your news on with Ron. We got a chance to drive to the beach. Don't give up. We got a chance to drive to the frickin' beach.
Get your news on with Ron. Don't you want to know what's going on? We're getting our news on today. Get your news on with Ron. Don't you want to know what's going on? We're getting our news on today. You can tweet me an article at Ron Placone. We'll go through it together and make it our own. Get your news